Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today we are doing my January TBR, which is just absolutely fucking bonkers to me because January already, it's nuts. This year went by so freaking fast, but I'm really excited to go into 2023. I'm also terrified, but I'm excited. So like we're gonna focus on that and not the terrified because this year was nuts. Next year is already gonna be nuts. So it's gonna be a year. But we're gonna talk about books. So I actually considered not doing TBRs next year or like switching it to do like seasonal TBRs instead. But then I recently did a video where I went through all of the TBRs from 2022 to see if I actually read the books on my TBRs, and I read 75% of the books on the TBRs. So I've decided that I'm going to keep doing them. They do help me. I am such a crazy mood reader, but they do help me because I'm the kind of mood reader where I like get into a mood where I have like literally no idea what I want. And having that set list of ones that say, hey, these are ones you were interested in like last week, maybe you want to try one of those, I can go through those books on the TBR. They're a shorter amount of books that I can go through and find one that I like, rather than not having a TBR, being in that mood and being like, there are so many books in the world, what am I going to read? How will I know what I want? And then I will just sit there in like existential crisis being like, I don't know what to do. So the TBRs do actually help me, even though it doesn't seem like they do, but they do, I promise. And so I'm gonna continue doing them. I hope that you like watching them. I think it's fun to try and decide what books that I want to have on them. I love making TBRs. I like following a pattern or like following a challenge or something. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm gonna try and be a little bit more strategic choosing the books on the TBRs rather than just like throwing together a list. I'm going to make them a little bit more, what do I think I'll want to read in the actual month based on previous years that I read in those type of months, like seasonal type reads. I tend to want to read more fantasy romance in January and February, so like focusing on that more in February and January, whereas like putting it on a random TBR in like May, I never read fantasy romance in the summer. So like, you know what I mean? Just like trying to be a little bit more strategic that way. I'm also going to try and participate in readathons, read-alongs, book clubs more often this year. I really I was really good in 2021. I did participate in a lot of book clubs in 2021, but in 2022 I like full slacked and was just like, no thank you. But I love having the book clubs and going to be able to go to the live shows and follow along with them. So I'm going to try and do that. So I'm gonna try and put those on my TBRs, although sometimes they won't have an audiobook or I won't be super interested in that month, so we're gonna just like play it by ear and go a little bit more into it. But I would really like to participate in more book clubs and stuff, and like maybe like host my own read along or something. I have to figure things out, but I would like to do something more like that where I have like set things to read. Okay, so anyway, all this rambling aside, I have a list of some books that I would think I'm gonna want to read in January that I'm gonna put on my January TBR, so I'm gonna go through them. Like always, I am gonna start with new releases. I do have a couple of new releases. The first one being Jasper Vale by Devney Perry. This releases January 31st, which is literally the last day of January. I am going to read this last day of January. Will I finish it the last day of January? Unlikely. So it'll probably end up being like finished in February, but I am going to start it on the day it comes out in January, which is why I wanted to put it on this TBR. It does come out in January. This is the next book in the Eden series by Devney Perry. This is Eloise and Jasper's book. It's a fake dating, accidental marriage type situation. I'm really excited about it. I love this series. It's probably my favorite series by Devney Perry, and I think it's going to be amazing, and I 100% want to pick it up as soon as it comes out, so I had to put it on the TBR. The next one that I have is actually one that I just want to mention. It's not actually going to be on my TBR because I will not get to it in January, but I wanted to mention it because it comes out in January, and that's Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles. This one comes out on the same day as Jasper Vale. It comes out January 31st, so because I want to read Jasper Vale more, I'm going to prioritize that one over Whispers of You. But I wanted to mention to you guys, hey, a reminder, Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles comes out January 31st, in case you guys want to put it on your January TBRs, just to like keep it in mind that, hey, that comes out. But I will probably read this in February. I will read this in February. I've already pre-ordered the audiobook, but I do still want to read this. It's just Jasper Vale I want to read more, and so that's the one I'll start when it comes out. The next one that I have is Can't Say Goodbye by Eden Finley. I read all of Eden Finley's books, and I am 100% going to be reading this one. She has said that it should be a simultaneous audio ebook release, which I am so happy about that Eden's gotten to that point that she's able to do that. This is an MMM poly romance, and it's Brady's book. I'm really excited. I would recommend reading Football Royalty before reading this one, but I've already read Football Royalty, and I'm excited because I haven't read an MMM in a really long time, and I'm super excited to see how Eden does it. She's really good with things like communication and stuff like that, so I'm really hoping that she can, this will be her first poly romance, so I'm really hoping that she can work it really well, but I'm excited. I think it's going to be great, and I'm definitely going to read this as soon as it comes out. Then the next one that I have, the next new release that I have, is actually Maniac by Onley James. I've mentioned this book a couple of times. I'm very, very excited about it. It's the last book in the Necessary Evils series, and it's the one that I've been waiting for forever. Thomas and Aiden. I'm so excited. I love the Necessary Evils series, and because this book comes out, it's the last book in January, I will be doing a reread of the series also before reading Maniac. So Maniac comes out on the 17th, so I am going to read the first 6 books, I think. There's 6 in the series. I'm going to read the first 6 books before, reread the first 6 books before I get to this one. These are just the only 3 that I happen to own. This is book 2, Psycho, book 3, Moonstruck, book 4 is Headcase, book 5 is called Madman, book 6 is called Lunatic, and then this one is book 7, it's Maniac. Book 1 is called Unhinged, I believe. I don't like that book. I didn't like it the first time I read it, but I'm very curious to reread it. I've actually never reread any of the books in this series, which is crazy for me because I'm usually a big rereader of books that I love, but I haven't reread any of the books in this series, so I'm excited to go back and reread all of them. Unhinged, I did not like the first time, and I'm curious to see if those same feelings will still hold up. I am going to try and reread Unhinged, but if I get like halfway through it and I still hate it, I'm just gonna skip to the next one because I do love every single other book in the series. I gave every single other book in the series 4 or 5 stars, and I think I gave Unhinged the first time I read it like 2.5, 3 stars. I just didn't like the characters in it, but I loved the overarching like storyline, which is why I continued with the series, which is why I'm a big advocate for continuing series if there are parts of it that you like, even if you don't like the characters in book 1. I love interconnected standalones because there are ones that you don't love because you don't love those characters, but you love the interconnected aspect of it. Anyway, that was a long-winded rant, but I'm really excited to reread the series. I love, love, love the rest of the books in the series outside of the first one, and I'm really excited to reread it and to finally read Maniac and get Thomas and Aiden's HEA. Then the next book that I have is The Obsession by Nora Roberts. This one is part of is for a book club. It's for Jess from Peace Love Books Patreon book club. She started a Patreon in December, and she's starting a book club in January where each month she's reading a book with her Patreons, where she is inviting an author into the book club, and the author is going to read the book with us and then participate in the live show with us. So I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be really fun. I love Jess, so I had to support her with her Patreon. I was already a channel member, so had to become a Patreon for her. And I'm really excited about this book club. I think it'll be really fun to read with the different authors and see what the authors' actual thoughts on the books are. So for January, she's reading The Obsession by Nora Roberts with Catherine Cowles. I have never read a Nora Roberts book, to the absolute disdain of my mother, by the way. My mother is probably one of the biggest Nora Roberts fans ever. She's read almost every single book in Nora Roberts' backlist, which is intense because there are a lot of books in Nora Roberts' backlist. But she's been wanting me to read a Nora Roberts forever, so when I told her that I was going to be reading this one for a book club, she got really excited, so I thought that was funny. But I'm excited. I literally have no idea what this is about. I know that it's romantic suspense, at least according to my mom. But I know Catherine Cowles loves romantic suspense. That's what she writes also, and I know that she's a huge fan of Nora Roberts, so I think it'll be really fun to hear her thoughts on the book, to hear Jess's thoughts on the books and all the other people in the Patreon. So I am going to find the audiobook of that one and read it. I think my library has it. I'm excited. Then the next one that I have is The Bride by Julie Garwood. This one was actually on my 5-star predictions for 2022 list, and I was not able to get to it because my library doesn't have the audiobook anymore, and I was so sad. And I just recently, I'll link the video down below, but I just recently did a 5-star prediction wrap up and then my 5-star predictions for 2023. And in that video, I mentioned that I couldn't find the audiobook anywhere on subscription, and that I didn't have an Audible credit, so I couldn't buy it, and that's why I couldn't read it. And then Monica gifted me the audiobook for The Bride by Julie Garwood on Audible. So that was so sweet of her. It was a holiday gift, and that was so nice of her. So I am so excited, and I'll be able to read this in January, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it. I'm pretty positive. So many of my friends have loved it. I really love Julie Garwood, so I'm really excited about it, and thank you so much, Monica, for the audiobook. Then the next one that I have is Sinner by Sierra Simone. This is book 2 in the, is there a series? Pray for Us Sinners? I don't know what the series is called. The first book was Priest, this series by Sierra Simone. I read Priest in December, and I want to read Sinner in January because for Jess's Patreon book club, we're reading Saint in February. So in order to read Saint, I want to read Sinner, and I figured Sinner in January would be the perfect timing, especially because I just read Priest in December. I'm really hoping that I like this one more than Priest. I enjoyed Priest, don't get me wrong. It was not bad. I was really liking it until the ending. Like the ending kind of screwed things over. I also didn't love the female heroine in it. But I gave it 4 stars. It was not bad. There were definitely things that I didn't enjoy about it. I thought it being written in the hero's perspective was interesting. It gave us a different view than any other book I've ever read. I've never read a book in the hero's perspective, so that was really interesting, but I didn't love it and want to rave about it like I've heard from so many people. So many people talk about Priest as being a top tier book, and for me it was just it was good, you know? But I have heard that a lot of people who didn't love Priest, Sinner is better. So I'm excited to read Sinner. I think that this one is his brother, and he is not. So the hero in the first one is Priestley, and a good boy, and this guy is bad and cool with it. So this seems much more my vibe for a hero. I tend to like the ones that are a little on darker, dangerous side. So I'm excited to read this, and I hope that I like it more than Priest. Then the next one that I have is Flawless by Elsie Silver. I asked when the Flawless audiobook would come out. I was told that it was coming out in January, so I put the Flawless on my 5-star predictions for 2023, and then the Flawless audiobook came out in December. So I've been chomping at the bit to read this book. I have wanted to for ages, and there was no audiobook, so I couldn't, and then the audiobook came out in December, and I literally put up a poll on my Instagram. I was I already put it in my 5-star prediction video and filmed and edited that video, but should I re-film that video, or should I read it in January? And it won to read it in January, which is good because I really didn't want to refilm and edit that video. But I've been really wanting to read Flawless, so I'm absolutely going to be reading it in the beginning of January. I have wanted to for ages. I'm really excited to finally be able to participate in the gushing discussions of things, because when you have a lot of times when books become super popular and all my friends are reading them, if they don't have an audiobook, I can't read them, and then I feel kind of left out and I can't participate in that gushing, which is so sad for me. So I'm excited to be able to read the audiobook and actually be able to talk to my friends and be oh my gosh, I totally get what you've been saying. It makes sense. So I really hope I love it and that I can participate in those discussions, but I'm excited to read it. I think it's going to be great. I obviously think it's going to be great. I put it on my 5-star predictions for 2023, but I'm excited, and excited that the audiobook is finally out. Then the next one that I have is The Dark King by Gina L. Maxwell. This is a fantasy romance that I've seen a couple of my friends read. So a couple of them have absolutely loved it, given it 5 stars. And then a couple of them have been absolutely not, no. So I'm curious to see where I'll fall on this scale of enjoyment for this book, but I have seen this book compared to ACOTAR. This book is not going to be like ACOTAR. I already know that. Every single fantasy romance, when a new one comes out, it always gets compared to ACOTAR. It's not going to be like ACOTAR. ACOTAR is a separate thing. It is amazing and separate, and everyone loves it because it's different. And so many people try and use that as marketing and be like, oh, it's like ACOTAR. It's not going to be like ACOTAR. And I already know that. But I think that this could be a fun romance, and that is why I want to read it. I think that it'll give me the fantasy romance vibes that I said that I wanted in January and February, and I think that the romance is going to be hot and sexy, and that's kind of what I'm looking for going into it. I don't have expectations of this being my absolute favorite book. I don't have expectations of this being like an absolute amazing fantasy romance on the level of ACOTAR. I'm going into this expecting this to be fun, sexy read, you know? The next one that I have is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This one I saw Riley from Riley Marie talk about like in the beginning of 2022, whenever she read it. I think she read it in 2022. And she loves this book, and she describes it as like a cozy fantasy, and it just looks cute. It looks like a fun read, a fun romance, and I just like the way that she talks about this book, and I found it at my library on audio, and the library hold comes in the beginning of January, so I'm gonna read it in January, and I think it's gonna be a fun one. Again, it's gonna give me those fantasy vibes that I like in this time of year, and it looks really cute. She says there's like a animal sidekick or something, so I think it's gonna be fun. Then the next one that I have is Balance by Lucia Franco. This one is for a read-along that some of my friends are hosting. Caitlin from The Love Librarian, McKay from Oh Hey It's McKay, and Cheyenne from That Tall Book Girl, I think, are the people that are hosting this read-along. Let me look, hang on. Yes, okay. So Cheyenne, McKay, and Caitlin are hosting a Off Balance read-along in January and February, and they are reading the first 3 books in the Off Balance series in January. I am only putting the first one on my TBR. I don't know if I'll like this series. It is an intense age gap. It's a gymnast coach romance, and I know that some of my friends obviously really love this series, and I know that some of them really don't. So I'm intrigued to see where I'll fall. I'm going to try the first one, I think, but I'm not gonna like say that I'm going to read the first 3 and participate in this read along. I'm going to try the first one, and if I dislike the first one, I'm not going to continue with the series. But if I like the first one, then I will read the other 2 and I will participate in this read along. So I wanted to include it on here, but I'm excited to try it. I think it'll be interesting, but I don't know how I'll love it because I did not love Hush Hush by Lucia Franco. That is the other book that I've read by Lucia Franco, and I didn't really like that book. There were parts of it that I really enjoyed, and there were parts of it that I really disliked, and the age gap was not one of the parts that I disliked. So I don't think that the age gap is going to be that much of a problem for me. But there are other things in Lucia Franco books, in the Lucia Franco Hush Hush book, that I didn't like, and if it has those same type of things in this book, then there is a good chance that I won't like it, but I'm intrigued. I'm going to try it, and I know that Caitlin has like gushed about it since she read it in 2022, so I'm intrigued and I'm gonna try it out. Then the last books that I have on my TBR are for another read-along that my friends are doing. So Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life, Sam from Sam Reads Little, Carrie from Book for Romance, Caitlin from The Love Librarian, Jess from Honest Fiction, and Zay from Witty Reads on Instagram are all doing a Vampire Academy read-along. And I have never read Vampire Academy. I read every single other like super popular book from that same time period that came out around then, in like early 2000s type time. But I have never read Vampire Academy, and I've always kind of wanted to. And so I am going to try and participate in the series again. If I hate book 1, I'm probably not going to continue, but I'm at least going to try book 1 and maybe book 2 because these are YA, so they're short. So I'm going to try them. I think I'll like them. I usually do like these kind of like YA vampire-y ones. I love YA romance. I love the YAs from this time. I ate all of them up and I just never got to Vampire Academy, so I'm really excited, and I think it'll be really, really fun to read this series for the first time as an adult and see how I like it, especially with people who are reading it as a reread from when they read it, who have like that nostalgia factor with it. So I'm intrigued to see how I'll feel about it. I am intrigued by their live show discussions and how they'll all feel about it. So I'm excited. They are having the first 3 books live show on January 30th. So I have like the whole month to read them. So I'm definitely going to try and get to these ones to participate in that read along. But that was the last one that I had. That was all of the books on my January TBR. I hope that I can get to them all. Like I said, I'm being a little bit more strategic, so they're all ones that I've been wanting to read for a really long time, or they're ones that need to be read in that month in order to like fit other things. So I feel good, I'm excited, and I think that 2023 is going to be an amazing reading year. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe so you can see more content from me, and I hope that you have the best day. Bye!